Yeah. Yeah, no, Pepper, it's funny because, like, that was the driving force for so much colonization was to find, like, better ways.
Spices
Yeah,
and
yeah, and pepper and and it's like so simple, and we just like have it like on our table. You
the
think
origin.
how many people died and civilizations that were changed so that we could have a little shaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
All right. Welcome to In the Act, a radio program on process and the creative life. Creativity does not just start and stop with artists. We all make creative and guiding aesthetic decisions. Our aim is to talk through the process and investigate how we choose to express ourselves and to live creatively. We are connecting with people about their lives. That's the subject of our show. Broadcasting from Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I am Erica Hunsinger, and this is In the Act. And today's guest on In the Act, we have Natasha Torrey. And Natasha is lawyer, judge, mom, friend, self-business owner, rooted law, explorer, curiosity finding woman. Natasha, thank you so much for being here with us.
Wow, Erica, thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah. I was wondering, what would you say, like, because I get so tired of, people, oh, who are you? And, you just want to like name off, professions.
I know.
Like, that was just by chance. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I struggle with that. Well, thank you. I'm so glad because I've struggled with just within the show of introducing people, but people who are listening want to know what the set the stage is kind of thing. And I'm like, do we need to? Because they're great. Just trust me. It'll come out. But I think it gives like some sort of but I'm conflicted about it.
Yeah. It might clue you in a little bit into how my brain works, I suppose.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How does your brain work?
I like to it's this constant, pull where I like to plan everything.
Okay.
And be worried. Like I feel like that's one of my pastimes.
Worrying.
And then I also like to like just be chill and confident. And so I was actually asking my husband a couple weeks ago, like, do you think that I have a slogan or a tagline? He's like, yes, you do. And I'm like, really? What is it? He goes, you say everything is going to be okay all the time. And I'm like, really? And then I had looked at my phone and I just texted it to somebody.
Wow.
but like in my mind, I'm like thinking about like 10 things down the road and how they might go wrong, but yet my slogan is everything's going to be okay.
Because does it normally kind of suss itself out? Or?
Always, like better than okay. So like that's all been, that's my experience.
Yeah.
Yes, has been, anytime something bad happens, like the universe will just like autocorrect and give me like 3 more goods.
Wow.
And then I feel guilty because I still want to feel bad about the bad thing that happened.
Yeah.
While I'm excited about the good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel guilty about when good things happen when is that in there too or no?
I used to like
That's
more
mine.
so, but I think that was like a product of just like, that was how I was raised,
sure.
So I don't know that that's like my natural inclination, or if it's just like some habit that was, for instance, like I, would hear often growing up, like anytime, something good or I was going to do, must be nice. And then it's like, and then I'm like, it is. Thanks for acknowledging that. It is nice,
That's so funny because I think it's meant as a dig.
Right.
A little bit, right?
Right.
Like, but there's like a jealousy or envy
for sure
statement in that.
Yeah. And that's what that is. And also too is some implication that maybe you don't deserve it.
Oh, yes. Right.
Yeah. But I think that we have to get away from that. And there's so many populations that I deal with who might think, maybe we don't deserve it. So I, come from a background where my family was low income. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, let alone professional school.
It's huge.
I practice in nonprofit, so all of my clients are low income. And then all of my colleagues are people who are driven to serve, low income. And so I think that we do have like this a tendency to maybe have a guilt mindset because we know that there's we know just how bad, things are.
Yeah. Right.
And so, it's harder than, when you can look in your freezer, and I'm speaking of myself specifically because I love cooking and I love food and we just had Christmas. And so I'm like one of those, I'll stock up. And so right now in my freezer, you can find like a prime rib and some lobster tail just because it was on sale, and it's like, it's ridiculous,
That's awesome.
And no plans,
right?
Just, one day it'll, we'll just have, and so then when I talk to people on the phone, and on a daily basis, and they're telling me just how bad their situation is, then it can lead you to feel guilty. But instead, I'm trying to shift that mindset to, well, but we all deserve good things. We all deserve good things.
Yep.
So the fact that this person or the people that, I work with and that I want to help don't have those good things doesn't mean that I shouldn't. They should too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so it's just just a different mindset of, now with so many more, I've always been interested in race studies and
yes.
I've been drawn to, different readings and books on that. And we had the Racial Justice Book Club here last winter, but,
it's hugely successful.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I never stopped learning about it, even, from my own perspective. And one thing that I recently discovered, to have it in writing is the concept of internalized self-hatred.
Oh,
I had never, so I would have an understanding of how I felt just because it's weird when you're the only person of color in a space.
Absolutely.
But I never really, I think I spent a lot of my life feeling like maybe I'm just weird. So, and now I can look back and be like, no, because this is messed up. So I was just at this event last week and there were hundreds of people in the room.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to be to celebrate, success. And I literally could not see another African-American person for sure in the whole space. And I saw maybe 5 people of color, and just and I think in the past, I maybe would have had some uneasiness inside and just and not understood exactly. Mm-hmm. But now I can realize, no, this shouldn't be like this.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And so that's just part of the journey, And so what will we do about it?
Right. And this area is predominantly white.
Yes.
And and so I assume that the meeting place was around here somewhere too, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was in the county.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird to me how white we are considering we're so close to Milwaukee, in between Milwaukee and Green Bay.
Yeah. And Chicago.
Yeah. And that we're, my understanding is that with kids in the school system, that there is a lot more of a mix.
Yes.
And I see that with my kids, friends. And
right.
So it'll be interesting to see if any of these young people stay here or go to school and then come back and work here.
Right.
But that was one of the most interesting things that I had discovered when I started presiding as the municipal court judge, was just how many minority people there actually were that I was coming into contact.
Right.
Coming, through that court system. Then I thought, oh, this is where all the brown people are in Sheboygan.
Yeah.
They're at the municipal court. I, hadn't experienced that. I worked for Sheboygan County for 11 years, and I just didn't see that same population coming through, at the circuit court level. So
what's the difference between circuit court and municipal court?
So circuit courts are required. And so every county has a circuit court. I think that there's a couple counties who might have share a court, but it's required that you have a circuit court. Municipal court is optional.
Okay.
And it's a community-based alternative to the criminal justice system.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyone who is cited at the municipal court does not have a criminal record.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we handle all the traffic offenses that would happen in the city as long as they're not criminal traffic.
Yeah.
And then ordinance violations that could have been a crime, but then the officer decided to cite them as an ordinance. So give them a ticket in municipal court. And so that's not everything, but there's a lot that can be covered.
Right.
So especially disorderly conduct or retail theft.
Okay.
Trespass, marijuana possession, those are all things that could have been referred to the district attorney for criminal charges, but then the officer, along with maybe their supervision, makes a decision to cite them at municipal court.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know. And it's kind of, a quirky system because in Wisconsin, there's around 240 or so municipal judges, but there's no requirement at the state level that you be an attorney.
What?
Yes. So Sheboygan has the requirement because we're considered to be a pretty
more of a city?
larger size court.
Right.
So they want you to have a law degree. But the Sheboygan Falls judge is a retired firefighter.
Fascinating.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So that has created different levels. So some people, especially in the legal profession, don't give municipal courts as much respect because you're not really,
sure.
judge. Or I'm like, okay, well, I'll just practice my not real, because I kind of think it's important what we're doing over there.
Wow. Well, that's a whole other systemic issue to talk about and think about then that you're dealing with. As an individual human, woman of color, judge,
sure.
Systemic.
Yes.
How things have been voted on and created in the system in Wisconsin, then, just the complex layers.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that, but it is interesting. What drives people to think that it's not important? Is it because there's no jail time? Is that why?
Sure.
Because we have building code cases that, have a higher dollar figure than you might think, and so you kind of have to let it go. I mean, I feel like I've experienced that several times in my life where if I do something, it's not a big deal. But then someone else can come along and do it. And it's like, oh my goodness, did you hear about that? It's like, you mean what I did 7 years ago?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I did. That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Right.
But why is it now such a huge deal when I did it before it didn't mean anything?
Yeah. And what is that arc of assessment and judgment and
I don't know. I mean, it's easy, to speculate. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel right.
No. Yeah.
But you keep going and try not to take yourself too seriously.
Oof, that's a hard one. I mean, because you want to be taken seriously.
Yeah. But
you also want to have that flexibility, I think.
Well, now we're going to get back into stuff that I've been reading about.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've always had this pull, this feeling I'm not, maybe this is good, but I'm not there yet.
Oh, sure.
And I'll know when I am, maybe.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm not now.
Yeah.
And just and then and so then you almost are minimizing what's happening now because it might be okay, but it's not the ultimate thing that I'm supposed to be doing. So I think that might actually be capitalism, and I think that might actually be also just a part of or white supremacy that keeps like driving in that it's not enough. It's not enough.
Sure.
And you know, I'm just really trying to understand that, you know, what does excellence mean for me?
Yes.
And excellence, you know, should really mean me being my best self.
Yeah. When you were talking, because I'm coming from a different template in my head. And you were like, and really it's the essence of, and I was going to say creativity, and you're like capitalism, and I'm like, oh yeah, that too. But that it's almost of the same vein. I feel like it's like how do you think about your own excellence? I guess, and when you're breaking it down, like what is the excellence and what are my goals?
Right.
But not feeling satisfied with like where you're at, I think is partly human nature too, in that like when do I get to feel like what is that internal radar to know when I'm either there or getting there or on the right path for myself. But I didn't really think about it through a capitalist lens, and I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, where I'm trying to go with that is just I can't let what other people think about what I've done be my driving factor.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I certainly can't let it be, you know, what motivates me to decide, you know, if I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
How do you determine when you're on the right path?
Well, can I sleep at night?
Sure.
You know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Are there things like plaguing me, you know, and waking me up? Can I just appreciate, you know, like just breathing?
Yeah.
You know, I you know, got in the car on the way here today, and I just thought, you know, I've got it made. You know, and so if I can do that, then I'm on the right path.
That's super powerful.
Yeah.
I love that you kind of broke it down to like, I was still in like, can I breathe? I was like, oh, that's a good point. You're simplifying to the basic body element feelings. And can I sleep? Can I breathe? Can I, like, in ways that are without angst or what is it? Yeah. What does that look like?
Well, you know, we're constantly surprised at these stories that we hear about people that seem to be like to have it all, right?
Yeah.
To be successful, to be beautiful or rich.
Yeah.
And that they don't want to be alive anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, so when I say what does it mean to have it all, you know, and thinking about our conversation today, I was thinking, okay, well, you know, maybe I don't want to talk about this because that's too personal, or
sure.
And so for me, family is like a really touchy topic because I don't know what the ideal family would look like, but
yeah,
I don't think that I had it, you know, when I was growing up. But the older that I get, the more I realize I do think that my parents did the best that they could.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Was it enough? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, but I am here.
Yeah.
And I am in a position now where I have my own family.
Yeah.
And I'm able to make, you know, my own decisions. And so that's where I was just, you know, thinking, just driving down the road, able to come here, you know, able to have this conversation, reflecting on my life, and just feeling like I wouldn't change one thing. And that's so powerful. How many people can say that? It doesn't mean that it's like perfect.
No.
I have lots of stuff that was like, oh boy, that would have been nice if that wouldn't have worked out that way.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm here.
That's beautiful. What's that?
I said time's flying.
I know.
All right.
Okay.
What else are we going to talk about?
Well, welcome back to In the Act. Erica Hunsinger, and we are with Natasha Torrey. And it was a real powerful statement. I am here, and thinking about all those pieces and having that feels like a wealthy bowl, and I don't mean monetarily. I mean just like this very verdant space that you have within you that you've created for yourself. That's really beautiful. I just wanted to take that time to say that. I did want to talk about, I was looking at your Rooted Law statement, and it said, my goal is to help you understand the process and actually listen to your story. And I pulled that out because, and I think about you. I was hoping to have you on the show because I think that the act of listening to other people's stories and negotiation and navigation through all of that, and to filter it through your education, self, being present with another person, and then to find help, that whole act that I see as that cycle act, I think of as a creative act that you do. And how difficult and amazing it is.
Yeah. So Rooted Law was a law firm that I started because so in running for that municipal court position, I wasn't going to be able to stay at the county just because of the way it worked out with the person who supervised me. Also, was partner at the law firm who would appear in front of me at the municipal court. Just was not ethically kosher.
Yeah.
So, and I also too, it was time for me to make a change. I had been at the county for almost 11 years, and I had been told for years that I was going to, as soon as this person retired, I was going to get a promotion. And then it became clear that the person waited me out.
Oh.
And so just decided to wait until I announced that I was leaving and then retired, which is, and then, karma had its way of working it out, and that position got eliminated then.
Wow.
So it wasn't like I had to, even think about, oh, that's not fair, but
yeah.
But so I basically got to the point where I was very comfortable doing the same thing. I felt like I, was good at it, and people liked me, and that if I kept doing it, that I might never leave, because it was just going to get more and more comfortable.
Yeah. So
I made the decision, and I had never had a goal of becoming a municipal court judge. I didn't really know anything about it either, and learned a lot about it, either right before I was elected or even as I was on the job. But I had been asked, several times to please consider running for it. There's some things that we would like differently, in that position. And so when I was asked to run for that, I knew that I was basically also being asked to give up this job that was
sure.
something that I knew and go into the unknown. And because the municipal job's part-time. So I, was going to have something else to cover insurance and
sure,
actually pay my bills.
Right.
So, I honestly had been afraid of private practice. I had it in my head, it was scary.
Yeah.
But sometimes maybe I can be I don't know. I don't want to say vain, but I looked around and thought, well, if I've seen some of these other people who are in private practice, and if they can do it, I surely can do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I don't think that's vain either. I think that's like knowing your power, knowing your,
So I started Rooted Law, but I was always able to, it's almost like, I don't want to say charmed, but I could pick my clients.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I could actually work with people that I really liked, and so part of that for me was I wanted to be invested in their situation.
Yeah.
Which is also very draining because, when you're doing family law, you can only handle so many times where, in your heart, you feel like it's your kids on the line or your relationship on the line. But that was kind of how I practiced it. And so that's why, I would have so many people saying, oh, Natasha, she's so loving, or this. It's like, yeah, because like I was really putting myself in that spot.
Yeah.
I've had people ask me, how do you think attorneys can do practice criminal law? Know that there's a person who maybe did something wrong. And it was explained to me early on that, well, when you practice criminal law, it doesn't really always matter what the specific facts were in terms of that defendant. It's the government needs to prove their case. So you need to make sure that the system works. Because if the system doesn't work, it can come after anyone, right? So then that could be you next time. Right. And so I can understand that, but I didn't have to make those choices.
Right.
So I practiced mainly, family law, and then even in my estate planning, I would get like invested too in just thinking about someone's future. And so listening to that story, because like I want to understand it. I want to be able to put myself in that position so that can help me with in making my argument and just just the human side too. I think that it helped people to know that like at the end of the day, like that I cared and that I would try my best. And even if they didn't necessarily get what they wanted or what they thought they wanted, they knew that they were heard. And so that is something that I was able to then bring over into my municipal position too. It's just sometimes it's just about like listening to people.
Yeah, right.
And it's funny, like even for like a traffic ticket, I'll have somebody, they really want to tell me their story. And I'm like, okay, but at the initial appearance, if you're not going to enter either guilty or no contest, I can't really hear your story, but I just want to tell you, and it's like, okay, I understand, but we either have to have a trial. But when I first, after I first was elected, there was a few times where I would have defendants after the trial, even if I found them guilty, ask if they could give me a hug. And at the first time that like it was a little different, but then I understood it's like they're saying like I had never felt heard before.
Yeah. I have an advocate. I have someone who cares.
Well, I'm not the advocate.
Okay.
So I'm the judge finding them guilty.
Right. But you're still here. Okay. Yeah. I love parceling that out. Yeah.
And I certainly don't give an impression that I'm their advocate.
No, right? Well, you can't then.
Yeah,
right.
So, so that was interesting, and
advocating maybe if advocating for them as a human, like worth. Maybe that's what I meant.
Or just seeing them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that especially, with our different systems that we have in place, it's easy for people to go through and not feel that they're even human.
Absolutely.
let alone being seen or heard.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was where I was coming from with that was, hearing the story. And I think it gets back to I went to University of Wisconsin Law School, and they taught this concept called law in action. And that completely affects the way that I practice and the way that I think. And so what it says is, okay, yes, this is the law, and this is what the statutes say and what the case law says. And, But then there's like house stuff, kind of really plays out.
Yeah.
And so that was really brought to life for me quickly in my career. So I was a really young law grad. I was like 22 years old, I think, when I graduated from law school.
Oh my gosh.
And then this was before the Affordable Care Act. So there was no health insurance that would continue till I was 26. So basically my dad worked at Laddish, which was a factory. He had retired from the Army, and then he worked at this factory in Cudahy, Wisconsin. And my insurance could continue only while I was in school.
Oh.
And so I graduated law school, and I went deaf in law school. And I also broke my ankle, and I needed surgery, and I put it off. And my dad's HR department knew I was graduating, and the factory, like, I don't know who it was, but they were like so proud of me.
Oh my
So they were like, okay, we'll keep her on the health insurance like 1 month after she graduates to have these surgeries to like fix her ears and her ankle. But then that's it. That's all we can do.
Wow.
So I graduated from law school in May of 2001. And I had surgery. I'm trying to remember if I was on crutches when I got sworn in.
Oh my gosh.
I might have been. And so, so this is definitely June 2001. And I just had these like surgeries to repair my hearing. I was getting used to being able to hear again. And my dad's like, oh, might want to get a job now.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, because, you've got these weird health things that come up sometimes. And, I can't have you on the insurance anymore unless you continue going to school. And I actually, for a minute, thought about getting my master's in law, which is like absolutely ridiculous.
Wow.
But I thought about it. So I was like, Dad, the only thing I'm qualified to do is be an attorney. And it's like, well, you might want to try it. Because I don't know what my plan was, but I didn't really plan on practicing law.
Really?
No.
I mean, okay, so I just want to like elevate the moment that we're in right now because it's really profound. You're having to have surgery on your ears, which is scary in and of itself. You just made it through law school.
Yep.
In and of itself, huge deal. Your ankle, I mean,
yep.
And then the outside circumstances of like not being able to potentially afford to have other things help because of the health problems and make these insane decisions at 22. Like all of these, like a confluence of things. I just want to like. Yeah.
Well, my birthday is in June, so I did turn 23. But no, it's crazy, right? Yeah. And so, so I said to my dad, I'm like, well, if I have to be a lawyer, this is entitled, right? If I have to be a lawyer, at least I want to help people, And my dad's like, okay, that's fine.
Love that.
He's probably rolling his eyes, but like keeping a straight face. So, so I applied for a job at it was called Legal Services of Northeastern Wisconsin, which was in Green Bay. And I had to get a ride because I was on crutches. So getting a ride from your parents, to an interview. And I got that job, and it was just the timing of it was such that there was a merger of all the Legal Services Corporation law firms in the state at that time. So the same year that office was being rolled into Legal Action of Wisconsin, which is where I work now. So, so then I'm, told, we might not have a job for you, and we don't know. And I was only making $30,000 a year, and my student loans at the time were $750 a month. And there was no there's this program now, which now I would have qualified for.
Sure.
Where if you do nonprofit or government work, then you can have your loans.
Offsets. Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have that. So I remember at the time I was like budgeting how many $1 cups of coffee I could have a week.
Oh my gosh. And
I remember like the idea of a Y membership was just, that's way out of my budget.
Right.
So, so that's what got me into practicing law, So I started at legal services, and then right away I was in court. Like I had no clue what I was doing. They just gave me a file and told me to go to court. I remember being in my first hearing in front of the court commissioner, and it was a divorce hearing, and I was just so naive.
Wow.
And the commissioner asked me what I wanted for child support, and I was like, oh, I don't know. And I threw a number, and she said, oh, and how did you come up with that? And I'm like, oh, it just seems reasonable. She's like, oh, have you looked at the statute? Did you know that there are guidelines for child support? I'm taking notes. Oh, thank you. You know, it's just so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And so then I was in court.
Your response sounds ridiculous too. Like amazing. Like I would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
What am I going to say?
Oh, got it. Like, but that's such an interesting way to process things. I mean, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So so then I was in court, and that's, so you go from not knowing if you want to be a lawyer to like, I did litigation. And so then I was in court for my whole career until June of 2020. I decided with COVID and, you know, the George Floyd killing, and then my dad died. I decided, what am I doing? You know, like, is this the right path for me?
Yeah.
And they had an opening for a job at Legal Action that I could do from Sheboygan.
Wow.
And I was happy to go back, like where I started. You know, and that was not something that I foresaw at all. You know, I thought maybe I would go back one day. I wanted to maybe go back one day, but I assumed that I'd have to drive either to the Milwaukee office or Oshkosh office or something. Mm-hmm. So it just was not on the horizon at all. I still can't even believe that I get to do this.
Wow.
You know, and I get to do it from Sheboygan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just exciting, but it's about like keeping like available, like being ready for opportunities, like having your eyes open, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I have 4 kids, and my son Aiden was doing this Model UN a couple weeks ago from home.
Model UN?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What? Okay.
And it was virtual, and so he's like working out world problems with kids from all over. I think it was University of Chicago that had put it on, and
cool.
It's over Zoom, you know. And so he's like, you know, he'd come down every now and then, excuse me, family, you know, but I'm upstairs. Can you please keep it down? I'm like, oh, we're sorry, Aiden. You know, so it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her. It's our family.
It's all right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, but that's a reality too. You know, working from home, like the home has taken on all these different, you know, meanings and, you know, significance. Like I used to actually teach spinning, if you can believe it. I used to, so I've always had to.
Spinning like the bike?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I needed to have like a creative outlet, and I loved spinning because it's like you're a DJ, but you have a captive audience. I mean, unless you're horrible, I suppose they could just like get up off the bike. But otherwise, you know, usually people are going to stay and listen. They might tell you afterward, I really didn't like that song. And you maybe make a mental note or whatever. But yeah, so that was like really fun. I did that, I don't know, I think for like 8 years where I would,
that's
you know,
so cool.
put the classes together. And then I got a Peloton bike, and then that just like ruined it for me because I'm like, these people are better than me. Like if they're better than me, let them do it. and I will just take the class myself, and I won't have to do all that work. And I do kind of have that like that mindset about a lot of stuff. Like I don't have this thing like about having to hold on to something. You know, if somebody else can do it better than me, great. You know, and then I will move on to the next thing that I get to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome back to In the Act. This is In the Act. Haha. I'm Erica Hunts here with Natasha Torrey. Thank you for being here and talking through your life process and all of that. And I wanted to just make note that it's also so important to think about and to tune into that. You said that you had support from your father's company, that they kind of rallied. And it's just I think so much of the time too, in our world, that it's like pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and you did that too, but you also had some support, and we're not without needing others around us for these to help buoy us in times where we can't. And I love that.
Yeah. Well, I think that, it just gets back to what I was talking about earlier. Like, yes, I could have been crying about, oh, why did I have to go deaf? Why did I have this ankle problem? But the universe responded by saying, okay, but we will help heal you, and we'll help, and you can stay on you can get this care that you need.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's been my experience. So I when I was in college, part of the reason that I ended up being a young law grad was because I just through some weird circumstances, which I'm now able to identify as some racism, I skipped the 5th grade. And
wow.
And that was like a crazy story. But in Wisconsin, back when I was a kid, you could only identify yourself as one race. And my mom had a very hard time choosing to call me African American. So she checked the box that I was white.
Wow.
And this was still at a time when they were trying to desegregate schools.
Yes.
And I lived near a school that was only 2 blocks away, but I'm a white kid, according to the school district.
Right.
So they bused me across town, an hour bus ride to the north side so that I could integrate a black school. And so and this was going on. And so then my mom was livid and tried to fix the situation. And they were like, well, we're not going to, finally, we're not going to, there's no room at the local school. She has to go to this other one. But if you want, she can skip the 5th grade and go straight to middle school. And so there was no testing done, nothing to see if I would be able to handle it. So what they did was they skipped me the 5th grade and put me in middle school and put me in a classroom for kids that had like emotional needs or like were like delayed. And so I was in this class that had like 12 kids and there were 2 teachers. And these teachers were excellent. And that's always been my saving grace in my life, is that I've always had these just great teachers like throughout. So what they just did it almost like Montessori style. So they would just teach every kid at whatever level they were at.
Right.
So here comes Natasha. Okay. So I got a great education.
Wow.
And then the next year, then they told the school, okay, she can go in the academically talented classroom. And then I did. And I had never been told that I was academically talented before the year that I was put in this class for kids with special needs.
Wow.
Who knows, like, what would have happened? I don't know. But that, again, so that's like, again, the universe response, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that happened and that put me ahead. And then I did fine, and I did fine in high school. And then when I went to college, it was expensive. I went to Ripon. They had good financial aid, but I feel comfortable with this idea of debt. And I just, and I was trying to take extra classes. But then what really happened was I had an advisor who was trying to push me to add extra even more. And then I learned about 3-year college degree. So I was already almost there. So I just had to take a couple more classes and then I could graduate in 3 years. But so when I was there, I was working a lot. I had a couple jobs and remember a time, I can't remember exactly what was happening, but something didn't work right with my financial aid. And I was like really stressed out about it, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And then I went to the bank to make a deposit. This is back when you used to have to go inside.
Oh, sure.
And I got my bank statement, you know, how used to give you your balance every time. And I saw that it was wrong. It was like $2,000 too high, or is it $2,000 or $2,500? And oh, my heart starts pounding. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, really? Because like I need this, right?
Yeah.
But it's not my money.
Right.
And so I have this like dilemma there, like right in the lobby. And I started getting upset. And, you know, the cashier says, well, you know, what's wrong, ma'am? And I told her, I think there's a mistake. So I get taken into the banker's office and I show her, and she's like, you know, oh, okay, you know, I don't know what happened, you know, and just, I'm so proud of you. Oh. I hope that my son is your age, and I hope that he would tell me, you know, if this happened. And I'm like looking at her like, well, thanks a lot, lady. You know, you're being proud of me doesn't help pay the bills, you know?
Yeah.
She's like, okay, don't worry though, you know, we'll look into it and I'll let you know what happens. So that goes on in a day or two, and then she calls me and she tells me somebody made an anonymous donation to my bank account. Wow. Somebody gave that to me. Wow. And I have no clue who it was.
Wow.
And I really needed it.
Yeah.
And I felt so much better that I was honest, right?
Yeah.
Because like, imagine if I would never have said it.
Yeah.
Nothing would have happened.
Right.
The person gave me the money.
Right.
But in my heart, I would have felt like I stole it.
Sure.
Instead of receiving it as this awesome gift and blessing.
And knowing it. Yeah. Knowing why.
I still think it's creepy that somebody could like go to the bank and put money in my account. You know, and
I guess I didn't think about it like
don't
that.
Don't even tell me. But that was like, that's an awesome thing that happened. So,
and the fact that like that you don't know who it is, it also becomes everyone.
Exactly. Like I went around for like, was it that person? They're awfully nice. It could have been them.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Oh, I know. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. That happened. And look and this was like 25 years ago, and here I am telling you about it, and I'm still like emotional. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge thing. I mean, well, what did it mean to you when you got, I mean,
it meant that like somebody saw and believed and like that I deserved it.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that I should keep going.
Yeah. And that's how we started the conversation too. You know, like you have your respectful and honest and present with having and very thankful for that.
Yeah. And I think that those types of things have always made me want to make sure that I express, you know, my gratitude or encouragement, because you just don't know. Like, you know, maybe that kind word might make all the difference.
Absolutely.
In someone's life. You know, sometimes we just need, because we do get tired, you know.
Oh my gosh, totally.
It's not easy.
No.
But, you know, if we can just be reminded, like, well, what are we doing it for? I would have people anonymously send me messages, you know, when I had Rooted Law going, or even at the child support agency, just saying, you know, you don't know who I am, but I saw you in court, and it made me feel like I could be strong too. And at first it's like, this is kind of weird, but I know I get it.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No. Yeah.
And maybe that's why I was given a gift of being naive, because I didn't realize sometimes when the way that I was being treated or talked to in court was probably because I was a woman, or because I was a Black woman specifically.
Absolutely.
And I would just take it as, oh, I guess I need to learn more.
Right.
You know, I think that probably served me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
and you don't know how you affect people.
Right.
And I think that's part of the driving force for me wanting to do this show, is that I want people to see that it's not linear. This life isn't linear, that we have these instances of and experiences of self that are unique to all of us, but let's share some stories so that maybe we can be inspired or learn from each other. Because it's, how else do we get through this without connection and relationship?
That's what creativity is, right? It's making connections, trying to communicate a message.
Yes.
And using different mediums to maybe get that point across, because we can't all receive it the same way.
Absolutely.
And so even like today, bringing the little gift, it reminds me of that book, The 5 Love Languages, which introduces this concept of, we receive love differently.
Yeah.
And we give love differently too. And so you have to understand that just because you receive love in a certain way doesn't mean that that's the way someone else does. So you have to learn that language. And so with art, it's just a way to have a different way to express a message,
right?
To make that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even as an attorney, you can think, well, that even writing a brief can be thought of it as art in a way, because you are trying to convey this message.
Absolutely.
In a way to get that point across and to make those connections.
Yeah.
And, and so in everything that we can try to find some way to be creative with it. And we are, right?
Yeah.
That is what we're doing. So from, like you had given me in the intro materials, like the way that you put your food on a plate or you dress yourself, but even the words that you pick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The way that you choose to look at your life, that can either come from a place of creativity, or not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think that in order to be happy, you have to tap into whatever your creativity is. Otherwise, it's just, if you only are looking at the surface level and you're not making the connections, then you're missing out on your joy. I don't know how you can receive it.
I agree. What helps you tap into that for yourself?
Well, it helps to be able to reflect. I know that we talk about,
so hard.
The past is gone.
Yeah.
But
I don't talk about that. I'm an advocate of we're all of this.
Yes. Yeah. How can you fully appreciate where you're at without remembering where you were?
Absolutely.
And all of the things and people and work that it took for you to get there.
100%.
And so that's why it's like every time, if there is something bad, I look back, but I've been through that before. I've been through worse before. I will get through this. And my husband likes to tease me that, most of my friends in my life I have to have known for 25 years, but that's great, and you just build on that.
Yeah.
But I think reflection is just key. People talk about journaling. I wish I was a better journaler.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I still have a good memory. Probably need to write some of this stuff down, before I lose my memory. And I think just being quiet with yourself, and just being aware, just being open to receiving good things. And, so getting back to that, everything is going to be okay. I really do think that's just a mindset, it's and if you just truly appreciate where you're at, then you have to believe everything is going to be okay, because it is.
Yeah.
It has been. You can find, whatever your situation is, I think that you can choose to find either good or bad.
Yeah.
I remember my dad used to tell me that there's always pain if you want to look for that. But, I think on the converse, you can also always find joy if you choose to look for that.
Yeah. So I love that. Thank you.
Sure. I feel like we got a little bit distracted, but
I don't. That's part of this. I think that's what happens with talking about process and life. And we've had this with other guests is that it's not a linear conversation. It's like it's kind of goes everywhere. And it's because it's drawing from so many different places. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story really and quick. Your perspective on everything. And it's I feel very privileged to be here with you.
Yeah, no, I thank you. I was like, wow, I'm cool enough to be on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, you're so cool. All right, Natasha Torrey, hold on one sec. Okay. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they contact you? How can they find you?
Okay, well, so I have my email. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so my email, best email is my first name, Natasha, and then it's at rootedlaw, rootedlaw.com.
Great.
That's the best way.
Great. Thank you so much again.
Of course. You're welcome. Thank you.
In the Act is produced in the studios at Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. More information on the web at meadpl.org.